Hey girls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name's Taylor and this is going to be another weekly reading vlog. It is April 1st today. There's no April Fool's Day jokes going on in this household or in this vlog. Don't worry, not my thing, not my vibe. I feel like it's kind of something that's turned into just companies doing it now. I don't really know a lot of people who do April Fool's Day pranks anymore. I could be wrong, but at least for me, that just feels like very much a corporate thing now, and then something that like me and my friends did when we were in like very early elementary school, but that is neither here nor there. It's April 1st. I mention it because it is the start of a brand new reading month. I am so excited to dive into so many great books this month. I do have one holdover from last week's reading vlog. That'll be my first book that I finish this month, and that is A Light Most Dreadful by Hailey Piper. This is a small town horror about our main character who lives in this dead-end town, working a dead-end job, really has like a mundane life that she wants more out of, and then more happens when a mysterious storm rolls into town. Townspeople start acting weird. There are like monsters, otherworldly creatures roaming the streets. The residents are acting bizarre. Our main character Olivia has to find her best friend Sunflower through all of this and make sure that both of them survive the night. I'm really enjoying this. This was a holdover from the Trans Rights Readathon, and I'm really enjoying it. It's got very much like a Twilight Zone type of feel, or like a small town horror in the way I'm thinking of Stranger Things as well. Not in terms of, because we're following mostly one character, but just the small town vibe and then this evil presence that's over looming the entire town. So currently reading this, we'll hope to finish it within the next couple of days. And then, you know, no surprises here. I am such a mood reader, so I don't know what I'll pick up next, but the two books that I do have on kind of a priority TBR, first of all, we have Nestlings by Nat Cassidy. I can't believe I haven't picked this one up yet. I love Mary. It was one of my favorite books of 2022 now, I think. I can't remember the year it came out. It was in my top 10 books, and I really want to get to this one. It's crazy that I haven't gotten to it yet, so I'm looking forward to checking this one out. It's a horror. I heard it's like Salem's Lot meets Rosemary's Baby, and those are two of my favorite horror classics, so I have high hopes for this one. And then kind of mixing things up, no longer in the horror genre, we have Lord of the Wilds by Analeigh Sbrana. This is a fantasy romance. Our main character is a librarian in a magical library. Super cool. We have fae love interests, and just this cover is absolutely gorgeous. It's really giving like cottagecore, kind of like dark fantasy, like woodland fantasy. So yeah, I'm really intrigued to pick this one up. I think it'll be a really good fit in between the horror books that I'm reading this week. But yeah, my camera battery is actually flashing because I apparently did not come prepared to film this clip. So happy April, everybody. It is the start of a brand new month. I'm so excited. The start of a new month always gets to me. Like, I get so excited to create new TBRs, pick up new books, new releases, everything like that. So I'm gonna go get to reading some books off of this TBR, or you never know, because again, mood reader. But I will talk to y'all later with another reading update. Hey vlog, happy Tuesday. Yesterday I just had the worst cramps, so not a lot got done. Not in terms of work or reading, or you know, if you get cramps on a monthly basis, then you know. It was one of those months where it was very intolerable. So yeah, I ran a bubble bath, got some pizza delivered in, and you know, just really enjoyed the day and relaxed, took it easy on myself. But today, luckily, I was feeling a whole lot better. So I did actually get some reading done, get some work done. So I do have a quick little reading update, although it's not as much as I would have liked, just because yesterday I could not concentrate on even like laying down and reading. So I am almost halfway through A Light Most Hateful, and this is getting so bizarre, just the things that are happening. It definitely feels like it's a small town that's it gets very kind of like cosmic and weird. And there was actually a book that I read at the end of last year, Edenville, that promised to be like a small town horror with like cosmic sort of strange elements like that. And this book I think is giving what that book wanted to give, at least with that synopsis. So I'm still enjoying it. It's very strange. It is definitely a strange ride, but I'm here for it. So I'm continuing to read this one. I haven't had a lot of time, actually. I've noticed the past week or so to physically read. At least it's been a mix of me not having time and then just me like prioritizing other things like video games. So I haven't had as much time as I normally do. I haven't taken out as much time as I normally do in my day to read physically, but I am enjoying this and I want to finish it soon. I don't really know what's happening, but I do know that I'm enjoying the ride. And then, as you may have seen in the B-roll, I do have the audiobook, but I'll probably go back and forth between audiobook and physical book of Nestlings by Nat Cassidy. First of all, I'm kind of bummed because I did get this book for Christmas and I'm super excited to read it. I absolutely loved Mary, and I think I'm going to love this one as well. But I didn't realize until too late to do anything about it, but my copy's a little miscut, which irritates me. I don't know if you can tell, it's not very noticeable, but it is cut at a weird angle and it cuts off a little bit of the title, so that's very frustrating. I don't know if this is a better angle. Like, it's not a straight line, it's not cut in a straight line. Luckily the font, there's no text that's cut off, but it's a little frustrating. And honestly, it really bothers me. Like, the more that I look at it, it bothers me. So that was partially why I picked up the audiobook, was because I'm bummed. I'm bummed this is a brand new book I got as a gift. It's cut wonky and I don't think there's anything I can do about it. But I'm 20 pages into this one and so far so good. Definitely feeling the Rosemary's Baby vibes. And I'm so excited to get to the part where it's like the Salem's Lot vibes, because again, as I mentioned earlier, the comp titles were Rosemary's Baby meets Salem's Lot. So we are following a young couple. They have needed a lucky break. They've needed a lucky break for so long. Our main characters, Anna and Reed, have had kind of an unlucky break recently. Anna had their first daughter, their first child, and there were complications with her pregnancy, so she is in a wheelchair. So Anna is struggling with not just being a new mother, which is such a difficult task in and of itself, but struggling with accepting just a whole new way of living, a new diagnosis, a new way to get around the world, a new disability. And because she used to work as a physical trainer, so she's really had to just completely retool her life within the past few months. And this is a strain, as it would be on any relationship. I mean, having a new baby is a strain on a lot of relationships. So it has really just not been Anna and Reed's year. However, they win a lottery. They win the New York's affordable housing lottery, and they get offered an apartment in one of the most exclusive, most historic, most revered buildings in town. It's historic, it's beautiful. There are like gargoyles, and the other residents are like very upper class. So Anna and Reed feel like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So they have just moved into this apartment. Weird things are going to happen. I'm intrigued. I'm so intrigued. I have a feeling that I'm gonna fly through this one. So that is the reading update. So my plans for tonight, after I end this vlog clip, I am going to put on a cozy reading ambiance. I'm going to pick up a physical book and get a little bit of reading done before bed. Get a couple more chapters into this one. I think I definitely want to prioritize finishing this one before really diving into that Nat Cassidy, so I'll leave that one as my audiobook for right now, even though I do have the physical. So I'm gonna go get to reading, and I will talk to y'all later with another reading update. Hey friends, happy Friday. I finally finished A Light Most Hateful by Hailey Piper, and I enjoyed it overall. Definitely, like I was saying before, small town vibes, cosmic horror vibes, if you want a book that has those elements. And this book also takes place within the span of a single night, so if any of that sounds intriguing to you, I definitely think this would be a good pick. I enjoyed this one. I'll definitely be checking out more from Hailey Piper in the future. I will say this one, when I got to like the middle of this book, there were about like, I would say 50 or so pages that the middle dragged a little bit. So the pacing was a little uneven for my reading experience of this. The beginning and the end of this one I felt like really made up for maybe, you know, just that little bit of uneven pacing in the middle. So definitely enjoyed this, definitely have a new horror author to keep an eye out. And I do know that most of this author's work is like novellas and shorter books. So I think perhaps because I had issues, just again, nothing that like made me hate the book or anything like that, but just because the pacing wasn't my favorite on this one, I think that I would love this author's shorter work even more. So definitely glad that I read this one. And then I am about 20% of the way through Nestlings. I am really enjoying it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I don't have that much more to say about it because again, like 20-ish% of the way in, there's not too much more to update on other than what I have already talked about in the last reading clip. So that's my audiobook. That's going well. I'm definitely hoping to read some more of that one this weekend. And then for my physical book, I'm going to go ahead and pick up something a little different just because my audiobook is horror. We're gonna go with a romantasy, Lure of the Wilds by Analeigh Sbrana. And this one, like I mentioned just before, it is a stunning romantasy debut about an enchanted library, 2 handsome fae, and 1 human who brings them all together. So we're gonna go ahead and pick this one up for the physical book. I'm excited. This one came out in February. I've been looking forward to reading it. It has such not only like a gorgeous cover that you just saw, but it also has like a gorgeous map. This one has such a gorgeous cover. I've been hearing good things about it from people who have reviewed this one, and it just enchanted libraries, fae stories, and then just like the darker woodland aesthetic of this book. Like take a look at like the moth and the mushrooms on the back as well. I have a good feeling about it. So we're gonna continue on with Nestlings, pick up Lure of the Wilds. Those are going to be my weekend reading plans. Today is Friday, so you know what that means. It's Pizza Friday. We're actually making calzones tonight. So technically pizza, but just a little bit different. Channeling our inner Ben Wyatt. I really enjoy calzones just as much as pizza. It sounded good. It sounded good. If you're new here, Pizza Friday is me and my partner. We make homemade pizza and we watch a movie. It's just a way to like make a little ritual, set aside a nice period of time for us to have a date that, you know, we don't have to go out anywhere or don't have to spend a lot of money, but just have that quality time together. So we are going to make some calzones. I'm very excited. My partner actually, on his way home from work, he has to stop by Whole Foods and pick up some vegan ricotta because I'm vegan. So like that's another reason why we home make pizzas every Pizza Friday, just because we're in Arkansas and there's not many great vegan options, much less great like vegan pizza options. We used to have mellow mushroom and it unfortunately closed. We don't have a lot, so that definitely was one of the impetuses for us like making our own pizza. So yes, we're making calzones tonight, and we're also going to be seeing Lisa Frankenstein. It just came out on Paramount Plus, I think, so we're gonna be watching that. I've heard good things about it. Horror comedies tend to be so hit or miss for me, and you know, we're trying to save money, so we didn't go see it in theaters, but I have just been hearing so many great things about this one, so I'm really excited. Calzone's Lisa Frankenstein. It's gonna be a good start to the weekend. But I am going to go get to reading, and I will talk to y'all later on this weekend with another reading update. Hey friends, happy Tuesday. Definitely long time no talk, and I apologize for that. I do have a bookish update for y'all, and I will have 2 updates today just to kind of add some more to this vlog because it's a little short and I haven't updated in a while. But this weekend, it was just a very laid back, chill weekend. It was the first weekend in a couple of weeks where my partner didn't have to work, so we definitely prioritized spending time with each other, just relaxing, watching movies. We watched both Lisa Frankenstein and Night Swim. Those were 2 movies, horror movies that came out this year that I was intrigued to see. I definitely liked one more than the other. Lisa Frankenstein I really loved. I thought it was so campy and fun. Just a very fun and very cute horror comedy. And I feel like, you know, the 80s as a throwback genre has been done to death in terms of period pieces. However, I thought this one did it really, really well. It had like Heather's vibes, Beetlejuice vibes, like think of pretty much, I guess, any movie that Winona Ryder was in the 80s in terms of like the horror adjacent movies and the horror movies, and that was kind of the vibes of this one. Very, very darkly funny. And then Night Swim was okay. It was okay. I don't think it was as bad as this one just has absolutely horrible reviews, but it was okay. It felt like kind of in like the early 2010s how, you know, we had The Conjuring coming out and we had Sinister and Insidious, all of those really, I think, wonderful like haunted house paranormal horror. And because all of those movies were like paranormal set with like a family in a haunted house setting, I feel like a lot of movies tried to capture like that sort of thing, and we saw a lot of the same content in the early 2010s in terms of horror movies and genres that were doing well and movies that were being made. This felt like a movie that came out then, and it was okay. It was fun, but not in an intentional way. Like Lisa Frankenstein, it was just, it was a little bit silly, and it was about a haunted pool, and they pretty much utilized anything, if you think of the concept haunted pool, that you could use in a movie. They used it. The CGI wasn't great. Like when we actually saw like the monsters or the paranormal or whatever was happening in the pool, that wasn't great. The lead up was better than the execution, and the idea, I guess, was interesting. I thought they did a good idea of explaining why, you know, okay, you hear it's a haunted pool, and so you're like, okay, so just don't swim in the haunted pool. I thought they did a good job explaining that, but it was not great. Definitely not as great as Lisa Frankenstein. So we watched some movies, and then where I live, we were in the path of totality for the eclipse. So yesterday We watched the eclipse. It was super cool. So those are kind of the non-bookish things that I meant to update y'all about this weekend. I'm currently in the middle of 2 books, and in the middle is very much like a rough term because this book right here, I think I have about 20 pages left, and I wanted to give an update because I hadn't given an update for this one all weekend long before I finished this one. I'm calling it right now. This is going to be on my top 10 best horror books of the year. For me, at least, because this did come out last year, but I am loving it. Salem's Lot, Rosemary's Baby, it definitely captures both of those, and not just in terms of subject matter. It captures the ambiance and the atmosphere and just the overwhelming feeling of dread. Like, it captures so much about those 2 books that I love, so I'm really loving this one. I wanted to give a quick update before I finish it, and that will end out this vlog, but I'm absolutely loving it. This is definitely not a surprise because I really loved Mary, An Awakening, I think, in horror, but Mary by Nat Cassidy, I really loved that one, so I'm really enjoying this one. And definitely next update, we're gonna update how I felt about this book because I am so close to finishing this one and I have a really good feeling. Now, my other book, I'm about 40% of the way through. That's Lore of the Wild by Analeigh Sbrana, and this one, it's okay. I am actually currently thinking about DNFing it just for right now. If I do that, it definitely wouldn't be a forever DNF, but just because I'm in such a horror mood and I'm reading what I feel like is going to be one of my favorite books of the year, and it's really hard to put that one down and come back to this one. I'm just not interested in like a cozy romantasy at the moment. This does give cozy romantasy vibes, absolutely. It's not the genre I'm wanting to read at the moment, so I feel like that wouldn't be fair to this book if I kept reading it. So I might DNF this one. I might try like a chapter or 2 more and see how I feel about it, especially after I finish Nestlings. But I'm enjoying this. I mean, it's a romantasy, and it's giving the vibes that I thought it would give just based on the synopsis and the cover art and all of that. But it's not what I'm gravitating towards at the moment, so I don't think it'd be very fair of me to push through this book when I'm just not intrigued by, I'm not intrigued. I'm intrigued by the concept. I want to read this definitely. Just this just may not be the week for it just because I'm in a horror mood. So first reading update of 2 today. Second reading update is definitely going to be after I finish Nestlings. Maybe if I get some more headway on this one, I will let you know for both of those titles. But that is going to be it for this morning's update. I'm gonna go get to reading and I will update y'all later. Okay friends, I finished Nestlings. And I loved it. I loved it. I mentioned earlier that this would be in my top 10 favorite horror books of the year. It's probably gonna make it into my top 10 books of the year. I absolutely love this one. I think this book is such a great example of a book that does actually like feel like the comp titles. You know, I feel like it is a big marketing thing for books to be like, this is the next so-and-so, or this book is so-and-so meets so-and-so. And so when this book was marketed as Rosemary's Baby meets Salem's Lot, that is a huge, those are huge shoes to fill. But not only do I feel like this book accomplished that goal of being a great blend of the two, not only in potentially, you know, subject matter, but also just tone and storytelling. But I feel like this is also a book that takes things from the original and improves upon them and changes them to reflect like our current time. That's one of the things that I love about horror as a genre. Horror is without a doubt like my favorite genre of storytelling, whether that be movies, TV shows, books. I love horror as a genre, and I love horror as a genre because it does explore, you know, societal fears and societal worries. It explores societal shortcomings and, you know, the shortcomings of people, the shortcomings of religions or institutions. And if you look at horror like when it was written, it really a lot of the times reflects like society and what society's fears were, and very much both like a counterculture and also just like a challenge and a reflection of, you know, the values and the worries of the time period. So I think Nestlings does a really good job taking, because I'm gonna get the dates wrong, but Rosemary's Baby and Salem's Lot were both written quite some time ago. My gut wants to say like late 70s, early 80s. I think Rosemary's Baby actually was potentially the 60s. But they were written some time ago. This was written 2021, 2022, like immediately post-pandemic. And so I think taking those books and putting a new spin on things and a new analysis of like what the story would be and what parenthood means and what, you know, moving into a building and community and all of that, what all of that means. So I think this does a great job of revitalizing and modernizing and just exploring themes that are so lovely to read about in horror and that are done so effectively here. Nat Cassidy is absolutely going to be an auto-buy author for me. I'll read anything he puts out, because I was so impressed with Mary. I'm so impressed with this one. Reading a book like Nestlings, when I finished this book, when I finished the authors afterward, this is one of those books where you just go, wow, horror is great. Horror is such a wonderful genre. Like this book really encapsulates a lot of what I love about the horror genre and horror fiction in general. Again, with the author's note at the end, Nat Cassidy proves that you don't have to specifically write main characters or write only what you know. In both Mary and Nestlings, he writes main characters that are so nuanced and real people that have experiences different from his own, and that's something that you can do in fiction. I know there's a lot of talk about who gets to tell what stories in fiction, and I think this is a good example of if you actually care about the people that you're writing about, right? And if you do the work, of researching and talking to people and actually writing characters with care, then you'll do a good job about it. I know it's something that like I kind of talk about, like as a rule of thumb, if the main character is a woman, I generally tend to like women writing those stories, because sometimes they get things that male authors sometimes can't or don't. I'm not saying that they can't, but Nat Cassidy does the work. Nat Cassidy does the work that a lot of male authors don't do the work, and it is so clear and obvious, and really from any identity, it is so clear and obvious when you read something from someone and they don't do the work and they're just like, oh, it would be cool to have a main character. Like one of his main characters, Anna, is in a wheelchair. You can tell that he actually did his work with sensitivity readers and interviewing people and talking about like real experiences to put them into his book. He didn't just say, okay, great, I'll write what I think I know, and that's good enough for me. So just this one and in Mary, I know very understandably so, a lot of people would hesitate to pick up a horror book written by a man, featuring women, and not just having like a woman as a character, but having the woman, like a woman experience being one of the themes of the book. So not just having like a female main character, but having like this one especially deals very heavily with motherhood, parenthood, but also like motherhood and a mother's sacrifice and just like motherhood as themes. So I know a lot of people, me included, like very understandably so, sometimes are like, okay, let's see how this goes. But Nat Cassidy is an author that's proven now twice that he does the work. He cares about telling a good story and representing people well, and it's so obvious. It's so obvious when an author doesn't do it, and it's obvious when an author does do it. So I loved this book. The author does have a note at the beginning with trigger warnings, so definitely check those out, because this does get into some very heavy subject matter. It's very relevant, and I want to point out Nat Cassidy is a Jewish author, and this is a very Jewish take on vampires, which is important because as someone who loves vampires, like I love vampires, I love vampire fiction. I feel like, you know, it is like a horror subgenre that a lot of people are probably familiar with. It is, however, so important when you are engaging in work about vampires, in particular the classics like Dracula, that vampires were created as a very anti-Semitic trope. And I'm not saying that vampire work published now is inherently anti-Semitic, absolutely not. But with anything, I think there's also been a similar discussion recently happening in the fantasy romance genre about, or just like fantasy genre in general, about orcs and about races of like mythological characters that are stereotypes, and how if you want to write about those specific, even magical characters, like races of peoples or like creatures that don't exist in the real world, like you still have to be aware that a lot of times these fantasy tropes and fantasy creatures were created as stereotypes. So when you are writing in a modern context, you want to be aware, if you are either engaging in the literature or writing the literature, reading the literature that's coming out now, that as a writer, you don't want to accidentally perpetuate those stereotypes. And as a reader, you don't want to read and love these like stereotypes of real people. So that's something to know, that vampirism and vampires come from a lot of anti-Semitic tropes. This is definitely the first book that I've read in terms of vampires that comes from a Jewish lens. So that definitely added to the book, as well as having this take place in New York City in, I think, 2021. Like that's like when this book, like the first draft of the book was finished, December 2021. So, you know, around that time when the pandemic was over, but you know, we're still facing the repercussions. Having Jewishness and vampires and, you know, a Jewish take on vampires was a wonderful storytelling device to explore also other real world horrors, real life horrors that Jewish people experienced during 2020. And I can't talk to the Jewish experience at all. This book does it well, so you know, go check that out. But just speaking as someone whose partner is Asian, his family is Asian, loving someone, going to try not to get emotional on the vlog here, but having a fear for the people that you love, not only because a pandemic is happening, but because of the racism and the otherization that people experience from racist people who were told on nationally televised programs, and from people in charge of political parties, that certain groups of people were responsible for the pandemic was scary. It was scary, especially living in places where, let's be so honest, like living in red places, and that's where this was coming from, was the Republican Party. And you know, if you're Republican and you feel called out by that, and you're like, hey, I don't feel that way, check the people who are in charge of your party, and check the people who spread the news, because that's what your party has become. Because I don't care if you think that you're a good person, if you are supporting and following people and listening to people that spread these dangerous conspiracy theories and information, whether that be, you know, for like my experience, my Asian partner, and worrying that like I had to go grocery shopping myself because I was afraid that he would get hate crimed, and I'm sure, you know, Nat Cassidy and his experience, based on from what I can infer from this book and from his afterword, being worried because he's Jewish. That's horrifying. That's horrifying that that is still happening today, that whole entire groups of people could be blamed for something that is not their fault. So I think, you know, going into this book, if you are Jewish, know that going in, that there are some nasty characters in here that say nasty things. Obviously depiction is an endorsement, but just, you know that there's some triggering words in here, and some characters saying some absolutely horrific things. Also, if you are a new mother, or if you're trying to conceive, or if you have like a very young child at home, this might be a little bit too much for you, so just, you know, tread lightly. But yeah, we've been talking about this book for a while, but that's just because this book is so incredible. Again, I finished it and I just went, wow, I love the horror genre, and this book was just absolutely incredible. So yeah, yeah, this book was awesome. I'm still gonna have one more update like with the other books that I've been reading, but I wanted to capture my immediate reactions to finishing this book, because it was one where I finished it and just sat with it for a while. And you know, just reading the acknowledgments, like first of all, this book ends on a very powerful note, and then you read the author's note, and that's very emotional as well. And then I am going to end off this clip just with a little quote from the author's note and acknowledgments, because again, it was extremely well written and it really did add something to the reading experience. I would definitely reread this again. But the author's note says, "I hope this book is scary. I hope this book is entertaining, but I also hope that its existence can also stand as little confirmation for you and for me that bad years do end. I hope that you're in a better place as you read these words. I hope you're climbing expressionistic icebergs." So yes, if you get anything from my channel, if you get anything from just even this vlog, it's to pick this book up. If you are a fan of horror fiction, if you're a fan of vampire fiction, this is going to be one of those texts that's just going to be like, if you think of vampire fiction, like you're gonna be thinking of this. I feel like this is going to be one of those vampire classics in the future. So go check it out. Go check out Nestlings. I loved this book, and I've been talking about it for a while, but it brought up a lot. It brought up a lot that I wanted to talk about, and that is, you know, the example of a great book, right? You know, you read a good book and wanting to talk and gush about it and explore and think about not just, you know, what happened in the book, but society, and just good book. Great book. Okay, this is it for this update. I will talk to y'all a little bit later with another one. Okay, so I am here to wrap this vlog up. I did actually have a lot of reading time today, and just because I had a lot of time where I was able to listen to an audiobook, and then not only I had time to listen to an audiobook, but I also had time to physically read, I did manage to just go ahead and finish Lure of the Wilds. Now, unfortunately, I did not like this one as much as I liked other books in this vlog, and there are a couple of reasons I think why I feel the way that I do about this one. First of all, this is the first in a duology. At the very last page it says "to be continued," and I did not know that going into this one. I was under the impression this was a standalone. That might have been me, but also I didn't hear anything about this being the first part in a series when I picked this up. So I was going into this with slightly different expectations about the story and all of that. So first of all, apologies if you hear birds calling. I wonder if that's a side effect of the eclipse, because it is 8 p.m. right now and there are birds chirping, and there normally aren't birds this active this late at night. So if you can hear that, enjoy the ambiance, I suppose. But Lure of the Wilds has a gorgeous cover, a gorgeous premise, and the premise that's like on the dust jacket that this is marketed as isn't really like the focus of this story. The story was pitched when it was coming out. It's even on the blurb in the back of the book, talking about a mysterious enchanted library and a young woman who is uncovering the secrets of that library. We do not spend a lot of time in the library at all. So if you're picking this up hoping for like enchanted library vibes, it's only about, I would say, a total of maybe 20 pages in here. So that unfortunately was just not what I was expecting. Also, this is an adult fiction book. However, the pacing, the tone, the characterization, even a lot of it feels very YA. Now, I know there is a big problem with taking works by women and works by female authors and putting them into the YA category when they are adult. There's a juvenilization that happens. That's not what I'm talking about here. And I think this book would be more successful if it was marketed as a YA, because this one felt like it's really trying to capitalize on the romanticy movement at the moment. And this one, again, nothing wrong with YA, but YA has a very distinctive and fun and fast-paced writing style. And also with with the way romances go and with the way the plot goes. So that all felt very YA to me. Again, not a slight towards YA at all, but I think because of that, I think YA audiences would enjoy this a little bit more than like traditional adult fiction, as well as world building, the pace, all of that feels very YA. And also the parts that are interesting in here, the characters and the parts that really are compelling about the story have nothing to do with the romance. The romance, there is kind of like a love triangle that feels very artificial. Now knowing that this is a series, I understand a little bit more of why it's in there, but the relationships that our main character Lore has with the two main love interests are the least compelling of this whole entire book. Lore has a best friend character. She has like these children that she takes care of, her aunt, her uncle. There's other characters introduced throughout this book that her relationships with them are more engaging than the romances in here. And I think if like there's like 1.5 spicy scenes, if you would have taken out those spicy scenes, maybe kept them closed door or something, this feels like YA. Again, this I feel like would have such better potential and appeal in a YA genre and like the YA audience. And I'm wondering if those things that I had a problem with, if those were things that like publishing wanted to kind of market this book as. Because if you go into this wanting a romantasy, I think you're going to be disappointed, because I think the romances in here are the weakest part of the story. Now the world building is interesting, Lore as a character is interesting, and lots of things are happening within the plot that are very interesting. I just find the romance to be very, very insta-love for Lore and both of the characters she winds up having feelings for. So I don't know, I wanted to love this one. Unfortunately, I just think that this book deserves like a better marketing, because what it's like being suggested, what this is being suggested is a romantasy that has enchanted library elements, and you don't, it just feels like a YA fantasy, and a lot of YA fantasies have romance, so the way that the romance is developed feels a lot more like just a YA fantasy book with a romance. So unfortunately, I didn't love this, and I probably will not be continuing on with the series, but you know, I definitely think like the writing style is there. It's good writing, it's interesting writing. I liked the world building and the descriptions of like food and magic and like locations. Those were really good. It's just, I didn't care for just the romance, which I know sounds really weird to like say that I picked up a romantasy and then didn't care for the romance, but I was interested in a romantasy, but just I didn't care for the romance. So I don't want to continue on knowing that I'm not liking the romance, which is such a major integral part of the story. So yes, unfortunately a miss for me, but I think a lot of people would really like this one. Just know going in, it's not that enchanted library story that maybe some of the marketing and the book blurb and the dust jacket may lead us to believe. But that is going to be it for this week's reading vlog. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below letting me know what books you read this week, and subscribe to my channel for all of the bookish, cozy gaming, and horror content. Stay safe, stay spooky, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!